In a small local sporting goods shop, Ken scans the racks, looking for an aluminum baseball bat. No luck. Only wooden ones hang on the wall. The shop owner eyes him carefully and asks the obvious question, "Is he Yakuza?" Ken answers no, but his eyes betray him. The lie shows. The owner doesn't bother arguing. He just kicks Ken out of the shop. Elsewhere, Galki's organization starts moving. 4 squad captains from the eastern section are summoned to the warehouse for what's clearly a serious matter. They grumble on the way, complaining that whenever a job is supposed to be easy or the opponent is said to be weak, people end up dead. None of them are happy. Ban Phuong is still around. The gang treats him like dirt, a disposable errand boy. Their disgust is obvious, especially because he's Vietnamese. They don't hide it. They don't care. In the end, they shove a task onto him and order him to head out to a nearby town to buy supplies. Ban Phuong doesn't argue, he just nods and leaves. Before the current events, inside the office of the chief of Galki's eastern section, the chief calmly listens as a report is delivered. Trouble has surfaced. Resistance. Disorder. Someone stepped out of line. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't look surprised. He simply concludes that the situation requires a heavier hand. The members lower their heads, apologizing for the failure. The chief tells them this isn't about mistakes. As an organization, they exist to be merciless toward anyone who opposes them. Fear is their foundation. Fear is how they rule. Fear is why they're dominant. To reinforce that, the chief gives his order. The 4 squad captains will be dispatched to handle the problem, and once they arrive, the fate of the members who caused this mess will be decided by those 4 men. Night falls over a crowded street, neon lights reflecting off wet pavement. 2 men stand guard at the entrance of a building. They spot someone walking straight down the middle of the road. A man holding a baseball bat. It's Ken. One of them squints and asks if that's the guy they're supposed to be looking for. The other shakes his head. The description doesn't match. He was told the man had a strange hairstyle. "That's enough," Ken snaps. Without warning, he swings the bat and sends the first man flying through the air. The second man lunges in with a punch, but Ken reads it instantly. He steps in and throws a clean counter, dropping him on the spot. Ken shouts. He tells them he's done holding back. He's furious. There will be no mercy. If they want him, they'll have to come take him. All of them. 7 men rush him at once, sashimi knives flashing. They surround him. One lunges in first. Ken blocks the stab with his baseball bat and immediately swings back, smashing the man's face. Another slips in close. A blade grazes through Ken's suit, barely missing flesh. Ken answers by crushing the man's hand with the bat. The dropped knife spins out of control and slashes into another man's face. At the same time, Ken whips a kick into a different attacker, sending him reeling. 1 man, 7 opponents, and Ken doesn't slow down. The last 2 men hesitate. They already know. They don't stand a chance. But they rush towards Ken anyway. Ken moves first. He leaps forward and drives a rising kick into one man's face, snapping his head back like an uppercut. The fight ends there. All 7 men are down. Ken doesn't celebrate. He doesn't breathe easy. He walks straight to the door. Slowly, deliberately, he opens it and steps inside, bracing himself. The next wave is waiting. Inside the dark room, Ken finally comes face to face with the 4 captains. He feels it immediately. These men are different, real killers. The captains study him, almost amused. They praise him for not flinching, for standing there like he belongs. One of them chuckles and tells Ken that the darkness suits him, that it's already wrapped around him. Then the bald captain steps forward. He offers a deal. Ken cuts his own Achilles tendon, right there. In exchange, they'll spare him, and miss you. The bald man already expects the answer. Ken smiles. He tells the bald captain he looks like a monk, compassionate, merciful, almost holy. And if that's really what it takes, Ken says he'll cut his own Achilles tendon. In their dreams. Ken moves first. He explodes forward, spinning into a full roundhouse kick. The negotiations are over. The bald man snaps, shouting that Ken is a liar. Ken fires back immediately, laughing, unhinged. If anyone's going down tonight, he tells them, it's all of them. The bald captain launches first, whipping a kick straight at Ken. Ken blocks it, but the opening costs him. A punch slams into his face from the captain in shaded glasses. The man asks, almost curious, if Ken felt that one. Ken spits blood onto the floor and grins. Nope. The fight explodes. Ken versus all four captains. Blows rain down from every direction. Punches, kicks, elbows. Ken fights back, landing hits when he can, but he feels it fast. For every strike he lands, 4 come crashing back into him. This isn't a street fight anymore. This is survival. Even the captains start to acknowledge it. The guy won't stay down. Ken laughs through the pain and tells them something unexpected. If they want to walk away, he won't stop them. They're all beaten up anyway. For a moment, there's silence. Then one of the captains barks an order. Turn on the lights. As the lights snap on, the room floods white. Not just captains, an army. Men packed wall to wall, blades, pipes, fists ready. Ken feels it immediately. Yeah, this is deep water now. The captain who ordered the lights on smiles and tells Ken the truth straight up. This might finally be a fair fight. Fair or not, he's going to die here. Then the door opens. A familiar voice cuts through the tension. Do Huen steps in, calm as ever, greeting his boss like this is just another night. Right behind him comes Tae-soo, calmly, asking to know why Ken thought it was a good idea to disappear on them. Then Marin rushes in, bowing slightly, apologizing under his breath for showing up late. Ken's still trying to process it when Pickaxe appears last. Pickaxe grins and tells him the truth. He's the one who made the call. Ken just stares at him. No way. Pickaxe shrugs. Say it like it's obvious. Of course it was him. Ken's their boss. Then Tae-soo steps forward and shouts the order. Protect Ken. The answer comes instantly. Loud, unified, no hesitation. Hell yeah! And just like that, the fight changes. Tae-soo tells Ken that Miss Yu is being held in the underground warehouse just ahead. He asks what they should do. Tae-soo clearly wants to rescue her right now, but he knows the enemy will never allow it to be that easy. Ken doesn't hesitate. He says he doesn't care. He's going to rescue Miss Yu. Before anyone can argue, Ken takes off running, shouting back for them to handle the rest. Tae-soo snaps into action immediately, ordering Do-hoon to follow Ken and protect him. The others stay behind, ready to crush anyone who gets in their way. One of the captains scoffs and calls them idiots. 30 men against 3, no contest. Tae-soo looks at him, calm but deadly, and tells him that's exactly the problem. A squad captain shouldn't be this ignorant. They have no idea who they're dealing with. Staring at them while cigarettes in his mouth, Tae-soo advised them to get ready to have their asses kicked. Several men rush Ken at once, blades flashing. Ken plants his feet. Every stab is met by the wooden bat, metal clashing as he knocks the knives aside, then swings back with full force, sending bodies crashing away. Nearby, Do-hoon is pure destruction, charging through enemies like a raging beast, dropping anyone foolish enough to stand in his path. Ken reaches a room sealed only by a thin curtain. He tears it open and shouts Miss Yu's name. Then he freezes. Inside, Miss Yu is bound and helpless, treated like nothing more than prey waiting to be slaughtered. Ken doesn't scream. He doesn't rush. He just tightens his grip on the bat. In that moment, every rule he tried to live by disappears. The door behind him closes. The rain outside keeps falling. And somewhere in the darkness, someone is about to learn what happens when you push a man past the point of mercy. Do-hoon freezes. He can't believe what he's seeing. What they've done to Miss Yu. One of Galki's men laughs and shouts that she's nothing but a filthy rag. He says even maggots wouldn't touch her. Says they should have come earlier, then keeps piling on words meant to crush her. Every sentence is uglier than the last. Miss Yu gasps for air, then speaks. She tells them they're the miserable ones, that there's no such thing as a dirty body in this world. Even if they defile her again and again, they will never stain who she is. She says she will stay true to herself, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much it breaks her. Her voice trembles, but it doesn't break. She turns her eyes to Ken and whispers, asking him, "Am I right?"
The man recoils at Miss Yu's words, disgust twisting his face. He lashes out again, striking her. That's it. Something in Ken snaps. The anger on his face is nothing like before. He charges straight at Galki's men, baseball bat raised. Dohwen moves with him without hesitation, smashing into the fight like a living weapon.
The room erupts. Steel, fists, bodies crashing. The sound of bones meeting force fills the space. Moments later, only a few of Galki's men are still standing. Ken walks toward them slowly, Bat dragging at his side. The remaining men drop to their knees, begging. They scream lies, twisting the story, saying Miss Yu wanted it, saying she asked for it, saying they're innocent. Ken stops. He looks at them and speaks calmly. He tells them they're right about one thing. A body cannot truly be defiled. No matter how much someone tries to violate another, they can never stain a person who keeps their will and dignity intact. But he tells them they are guilty of something far worse. They didn't dirty her. They rotted their own souls. A defiled body may not exist, but a soul rotten to the core does. Before Ken can pass judgment on the remaining man, Ban Foon appears at the doorway. He's holding a carton of milk, frozen in place like he walked into the wrong nightmare. The man snaps at him, ordering him to finish Ken and Do-hyun. Ban Foon doesn't move. He doesn't understand. The order doesn't register. The man shouts it again, louder this time. Do-hyun steps forward and tells Ban Foon to leave if he values his life. Ken backs him up, calm but firm. Get out, now. That only makes the man angrier. He turns on Ban Fuang, spitting insults, calls him a useless foreigner, a hired killer, says they fed him, paid him, kept him alive even though he's nothing but an assassin. Reminds him of the money they send to his village every month, sneering that Ban Fuang should at least earn it. Then the words turn crueler. He tells Ban Fuang not to fool himself into thinking he's Korean, tells him he'll never belong, never be one of them, says he should stay where he belongs, a foreigner, a tool, a killer for hire. Ban Fuang just stands there, milk shaking in his hand, caught between orders, fear, and something breaking inside him. Ban Fuang freezes. For a split second, he's not there anymore. He's back in his village, fresh air, loved ones, the reason he kept taking orders he hated. Then, something snaps. He hurls the carton of milk aside and launches forward. A flying knee crashes straight into Do-hyun's face, clean and brutal. Ken reacts on instinct, charging in with a punch, but Ban Fuang reads it easily. He shifts into a tight Muay Thai stance, blocks the strike like it's nothing, then flips Ken to the ground in one smooth motion. The air changes. Pickaxe, Marin, and Tae-soo rush in, ready to fight, but when the dust settles, Ban Fuang is the only one still standing. The remaining Galki men stare in disbelief. Even Ken is stunned, trying to understand why Ban Fuang turned on them. Ban Fuang looks down at Ken and asks quietly if his people really accept him, even though he's a foreigner. Before Ken can answer, Do-hyun shouts back, loud and furious. Of course they do. They're with Ken. Nationality doesn't mean a damn thing. Tae-soo steps forward next, eyes locked on Ban Fuang, says that's not even the point. Ken's their boss because he's a natural leader. That's why they follow him. That's why they chose him. Then he adds, almost casually, that Ban Fuang probably didn't expect that. The room goes silent again, but now it feels like something irreversible has just begun. While Tae-soo keeps Ban Fuang distracted, Ken moves in from behind, baseball bat raised. For a split second, it looks like he has an opening. Then Ban Fuang turns and shatters the bat with a single punch. Wood explodes everywhere. Ken freezes, stunned. Before he can react, Ban Fuang's kick crashes into him and sends him flying. Gasping on the ground, Ken asks who he really is and where he came from. Ban Fuang doesn't answer. He just looks down at Ken and asks a question of his own. What does state mean to you? For Ban Fuang, a state isn't something noble. It's not a flag, not a promise, not protection. To him, it's just a hateful thing that crushes people and moves on. So before we go any further, we need to stop for a moment and look at where he came from. Vietnam, 1971. The war is still raging. Ban Phuong's father was a Korean soldier, one of those sent to Vietnam to support the American forces against the Viet Cong. On paper, it was called duty, alliance, strategy. In reality, it was blood. Korean troops killed tens of thousands of guerrilla fighters, and in return, their country received massive financial support, around $1 billion. A nation rebuilt itself on that money. But buried under those numbers is another truth. Thousands of Vietnamese civilians died during that time, people who had nothing to do with politics or war plans. Just families caught in the middle. Not heroes and villains, not right and wrong, just violence wearing a uniform and a state that never looks back. It becomes clear that the Korean soldiers are conquering Vietnam for money, and Ban Phuong's father hates what he's witnessing. He gets into an argument with a sergeant over it. The sergeant tells him that earning money during a war is only natural, and another private agrees. But to Ban Phuong's father, they are no longer soldiers. They are invaders. 2 days later, 2 men from their battalion are ambushed by guerrillas. The unit gives chase and eventually arrives at a small village. That's when the massacre happens. Without realizing the villagers are all civilians, the soldiers open fire. Ban Phuong's father runs forward, trying to save a young girl, screaming for them to stop shooting. Only then does the army realize what they've done.
The year after that, Ban Phuong's father returned to Korea. In 1975, the Vietnam War ended and the divided country was reunited. In 1988, the Olympic Games were held in Korea. That same year, Ban Phuong's father returned to Vietnam. That was when he met Ban Phuong's mother. The girl his father had saved became a beautiful woman. Ban Phuong's father apologized to the girl while kneeling. He told the girl that Korea earned a lot and managed to develop their country due to the war, and now hosting the Olympic Games. He apologized for Vietnam sobbing, and he apologized for the people.
Ban Phuong's father became a Vietnamese. Later, after marrying Ban Phuong's father, his mother gave birth to him. While growing up, his father taught him Taekwondo, while his father's friend taught him Muay Thai. His teacher is aware of Ban Phuong's talent, and his father has high hopes for him. His father was strong, but the defoliants that stripped the land during the war were stronger. He collapsed in the middle of a rice field.
As he lay there, his father told Ban Phuong that his heart had always been heavy whenever he thought about what his country had done. Ban Phuong was confused. He didn't know which country his father meant, Korea or Vietnam. In truth, his father no longer knew either. All he could do was pray that his son would never suffer the way he did. His father despised violence. He made that clear to Ban Phuong. Knowing his end was near, he looked up at the sky and died filled with regret. That was when Ban Phuong decided to go to Korea.
He found work at a food factory. He worked non-stop for an entire week at a time just to send money back to his mother in Vietnam. He would never forget the happiness he felt on his first day at the factory, because that was the day he met Hoa, the woman he would come to love. Most of the time, they were together, eating out, hanging around after work, doing nothing special and being perfectly fine with that. Just being in each other's presence felt enough. Ban Phuong really liked Hoa. Eventually, he told her how he felt. Hoa felt the same. She told him she wanted a life with him, here in Korea. But then an incident happened at work. Hoa was called into the director's office. When she arrived, 3 men were already waiting inside. Before they could rape her, she fought back, pushed them away, and ran. She didn't hesitate. She reached the window and threw herself from the 5th floor. For someone living on the margins of a state, the state is nothing more than a crude weapon, a place where survival means learning which bullets to dodge. After killing those 3 men, Ban Phuong went on the run. He drifted through the streets of Seoul with nowhere to go. That was when he met the chief of Galki's eastern section. With no direction left in his life, he followed him, not because he believed in him, but because there was nothing else waiting for him. Now we return to the present. Ban Phuong asks Ken again what a state means to him. Ken is caught off guard. The question feels completely out of place, like it doesn't belong in the middle of a blood-soaked fight. For Ban Phuong, the answer is simple. He loathes the thing called a state. To him, it's nothing more than a gang, a larger one, better dressed, but still a gang. And starting today, he's decided to fight it. He tells Ken that if he feels the same way, they can become allies. Tae-soo freezes. At the same time, Bon-fung moves. Galki's remaining men are killed one by one, bare-handed, brutally fast. No hesitation, no mercy. Ken's group watches in shock as Bon-fung turns back to Ken and asks him again what he thinks of the offer.
Tae-soo agrees immediately, but Ken doesn't even pause. He says no, flatly. He tells Bon-fung he will never partner with a bastard like him, and what he's done is unforgivable. Ken throws a kick. Bon-fung blocks it effortlessly and answers with a counterpunch straight into Ken's chest. Ken attacks again, another counter. Then a follow-up punch slams into Ken's temple. Every strike from Bon-fung feels lethal. Tae-soo and Miss Yu shout Ken's name.
Still, Ken refuses to go down. He forces himself forward and manages to lock Ban-fung in a choke. For a split second, it looks like he might actually hold him. Then Ban-fung drops his elbows. Both of Ken's arms snap under the impact. Ban-fung looks down at him and calls him an idiot who refused the offer and paid for it with both forearms. Then everyone freezes. Ken stands up. Ban-fung stares at him, unable to believe he's still conscious. Ken grabs Ban-fung's shirt with his broken forearms, pulls him in, and smashes his head into Ban-fung's face. Face to face, blood dripping, Ken shouts that he will never join them. Never. Not for vengeance, not for hate. Ban-fung is stunned. Miss Yu cries out Ken's name, and then Ken finally collapses, dropping to his knees.
Later on, the sound of an ambulance siren cuts through the night. Bon-fung is already leaving the scene. Tae-soo calls out to him asking what he should do now. He tells Bon-fung that their group shares the same philosophy, that it's just Ken who hasn't realized it yet. Bon-fung stops. He tells Tae-soo he's wrong. Then he walks away, thinking to himself that Ken's group is completely different from his own. That difference is exactly why they can never walk the same path. If their paths ever cross again, that will be the moment they settle things properly. The only truth he knows is that fists hold nothing sacred. Later that night, Ban-fung disappears without a trace. At the same time, rumors begin to spread. Galki's Eastern Section Chief has been assassinated. In a hospital room, Ken's group rests, battered and exhausted. Machines hum softly in the background. Do-hwen standing at the door, watching Ken sleeping.
He thinks about how Ken never gives up, not even after fighting someone like Ban-fung and ending up in a hospital bed. Do-hwen believes Ken will bring a great change to their lives, because Ken is solid as a rock, and he's someone who can look up at the sky without fear. Time moved on. Ken's gang gets crushed by another group in the region, badly. They all feel it. If things keep going like this, they're done. No future, no climb, just more losses. That's when Tae-soo steps in with an idea. They head to Mount Jiri, the second highest mountain in Korea. Tae-soo tells them straight up this isn't normal training. This is military-level hell. Deep in the mountains, they reach a temple. A monk greets them calmly. Tae-soo introduces him. Back in the day, this monk was a Gundal legend. Other gangs used to call this place Hell's Training Camp. Two younger monks appear and lead the gang to their quarters.
Later, Tae-soo talks privately with the monk about his plan. The monk looks at their numbers and says 5 is enough to start. Then he pauses. He can't believe Tae-soo let Ken, a Japanese man, become their boss. Tae-soo doesn't hesitate. He tells the monk to trust him. The monk nods. He says he will, just like he once trusted Tae-soo's father.
At dawn, Pickaxe shook Ken awake and told him to follow. No jokes, no noise. As they walked, Pickaxe started talking, almost casually. He said his dream was to run his own gang one day. Ken smirked and brushed it off. That's when Pickaxe laughed and told him the truth. This was a coup. Ken was already an ex-boss. Ken asked him straight if he really thought he could win. Pickaxe raised his pickaxe like an answer. Ken scoffed. Using a weapon like that was unfair. Pickaxe didn't care. He told Ken that if he somehow survived, he'd take him in and make him his right-hand man.
Then he attacked. The blunt end of the pickaxe slammed into Ken's right arm. Before Ken could recover, a kick snapped into his neck and sent him stumbling. Breathing hard, Ken asked if this was about Miss Yu. Pickaxe froze. Then he snapped. He shouted that Miss Yu had been sent back to her village because of what happened, and that was exactly why he was furious. He admitted it plainly. He had fantasies about her. He had wanted her, and Ken had taken that away from him. Ken just stared, stunned by how small and ugly the reason was. Then he exploded. He leapt forward and drove both feet into Pickaxe's chest like a wrestler launching a dropkick, sending him crashing to the ground. Ken grabbed a massive boulder, rage flooding his face, ready to bring it down and end it. That's when Pickaxe broke. He tore off his clothes, prostrated himself on the dirt, sobbing and begging for his life. Silence settled in after that. No more fighting. No more shouting. Peace was made, for now. Pickaxe sat there and finally told Ken his story. He said the village he was born in no longer existed. It had been erased and turned into an American military base. Everything was legal on paper. Signatures, approvals, stamps. But the village was gone. Homes flattened. A school was destroyed. Some people even died because of it. All Pickaxe ever wanted was to go back there someday, to stand in front of the people he left behind and apologize for being the village's black sheep, to tell them he knew he was wrong. That was the dream he carried, and that was why Pickaxe hated society. Ken and Pickaxe arrived late to the temple assembly. By the time they stepped in, the head monk was already beginning the training. The two monks who had shown them their quarters the day before now stood beside him as assistants. They told the group flat out that they would remodel them from head to toe. They were ordered to strip. No hesitation. Everyone complied. As the clothes came off, Ken caught sight of the massive dragon tattoo covering Taesu's back. The head monk looked over their bodies and nodded once. He said their physiques were passable, but not built for real combat. Then he revealed his own body, hardened and dense, shaped by years of discipline rather than vanity. Before teaching them anything, the head monk spoke. He said strength itself was not enough. To grow stronger, they had to revere strength. And before that, they had to understand and respect the reason they sought it in the first place. The training had not even begun yet. A new figure stepped into the training grounds. A blonde woman with dark skin, sharp eyes, and a posture that radiated discipline rather than charm. Her makeup was heavy, her skirt short, and everything about her felt inviting. She introduced herself as Kim K. Lin, a weapons specialist instructor. After a couple of conversations, one of the assistant monks gave a simple order: run to the top of the mountain. No explanation, no mercy. They ran. The climb was brutal. Thin air, uneven ground, burning legs. Every step felt like it was tearing something inside them. People stumbled, cursed, nearly collapsed, but no one was allowed to stop. Morning came. Day 3. They finally reached the summit. Everyone was wrecked, breathing hard, knees shaking. Some were barely standing. Kaylin looked over at them and said calmly that the rest of the training could be fatal. Not as a threat, just a fact. The head monk nodded. He said it would depend entirely on their conviction. Then he turned to Ken and asked him if he had thought about why he wanted to become stronger. Ken stepped forward, slowly. He walked to the edge of the mountain, spread his arms wide, and let the wind hit him full on. He shouted his own name. He shouted that he would become as strong as necessary to protect those who needed him, that this was how he would give meaning to his life, that he would no longer live as an empty shell. A week has passed since they arrived at Mount Jiri. The head monk's voice echoes through the mountains as he screams at them, calling this place exactly what it is: hell. He doesn't hold back. Every word is an insult, meant to crush whatever pride they still have left. The training is brutal, pure military-style conditioning. They crawl through sand until their skin burns. They descend sheer cliffs using nothing but ropes and shaking arms. There's no room for hesitation. The assistant monks are merciless. They remind the group that this isn't about looking strong. Muscle is useless if the body breaks under pressure. What they're building here is endurance, survival, the ability to function when everything hurts. The gang has no choice. They obey.
Dinner arrives. A tiny serving of vegetables, 1 cup of rice. The group just stares at it. Day after day, the same thing. Their faces look almost sick at this point, but the monks are Buddhists. There's no arguing. This is all they get. Later that night, they make a decision. They wake Ken up, slip out of the temple, and gather outside. Marin pulls out instant noodles and cooks them like it's a secret ritual. Steam rises, and for the first time in days, everyone relaxes. They eat slowly, savoring every bite, talking about nothing and everything at the same time.
For a brief moment, it feels normal. After they're done, Ken grows quiet. Staring into the sky, he tells himself that once this training ends, he'll finally confess his feelings to Yumin.
The next day, the mood shifts. This time, they're lined up in front of Kaylin. She doesn't waste time. No smiling, no easing them in. She tells them straight up that in Korea, real weapons are hard to carry. Too many laws, too many eyes. So most of the time, what they'll have in their hands is whatever's nearby. A baseball bat, a wooden log, something blunt. Then she pauses and lifts a sashimi knife. She tells them this is different. Slim, light, legal in too many places, easy to hide, easy to underestimate. And because of that, it's one of the most dangerous weapons there is.
She lays out the types. Long blades, short blades, different steel, different balance. She explains how each one changes the way you move, the way you cut. Then she steps in front of Ken in a blur, slashes at Ken. The blade stops just short of his body, close enough that he feels the air split. If you want to kill, she says, aim for the stomach or the neck, no hesitation. If you only want to stop someone, the arm, the leg, even the ass. Pain travels faster than fear. She looks back at the group and tells them the most important part. Don't think when you strike. Hesitation gets you killed. With enough training, your body should cut before your mind even catches up. And judging by the silence in the air, everyone understands this isn't just a lesson, it's a warning.
Now the real practice begins. The group stabs at wooden dummies, the dull thud of blades echoing through the grounds. As Ken trains, the head monk approaches him. He asks if this is really all Ken can do after shouting such grand ambitions and beliefs the other day. The monk tells him that everyone he has ever met who talked like that ended up the same way, either traitors or failures who quit halfway. Ken drives the blade into the dummy one last time, then turns to face the monk. He asks why the monk is even helping them. Ken says he will keep his word. He will never betray the people who put their trust in him. And if a world where people are forced to gamble their lives just to prove what is right is called justice, then this world is already a living hell. The head monk freezes. So does Kaylin. Evening settles over the mountain. Kaylin calls Ken outside, away from the others. She tells him he looked impressive earlier, calm, unshaken. Then, without circling it, she asks if he wants her. She says she's decided to follow him. As his privilege, she offers herself, no conditions attached. Ken doesn't hesitate. He tells her there's already someone else in his heart, and he turns her down. Instead of being offended, Kaylin smiles. That answer only seems to pull her in deeper. She tells him that if he ever changes his mind, he knows where to find her. As she steps closer, she takes his hands for a moment, making the implication clear. Then lets go. Before Ken can even react, Pickaxe suddenly appears out of nowhere, cursing Ken. He says flatly that after seeing this, he still doesn't recognize Ken as their boss. The brutal training at Mount Ji-ri continues. They're forced to cross a cold river to build endurance, then climb a jagged rock face with their bare hands. No safety nets, no mercy. After one full lap, everyone collapses, vomiting on the ground. But the head monk isn't satisfied. What he sees isn't enough. He orders them to do another lap. One of the trainers hesitates, asking if he's serious. The head monk coldly answers that if they don't finish properly now, they'll just be made to repeat it again later. The trainer swallows hard and gives the order to continue. Tae-soo complains under his breath. The answer comes instantly. A punch to the face. That's enough. Tae-soo stays down. The trainers ask who's next. Ken steps forward. This time, he's not facing an assistant. He's facing the head monk himself. Moments later, Ken is being beaten mercilessly. No technique, no lesson, just pain. The head monk tells him he wants to see how long he can endure, tells him to prove he's more than just words. There's no stopping it. The rest of the group is forced to run again, another lap, and another. Exhaustion piles on top of bruises, bruises on top of injuries, and still another lap.
Night settles in. Ken stands outside the head monk's quarters, a heavy stone clenched in his hands. Inside, the monk is asleep, deep sleep, snoring like nothing in the world could touch him. Ken steps closer, lifts the stone. For a moment, it would be easy. One swing, end it. Then it hits him. If he wins like this, sneaking in the dark, smashing a man's head while he sleeps, then he's already lost. Not to the monk, but to himself. He lowers the stone.
Ban Fu flashes through his mind. The strength, the conviction, the way he never bent, even when he was wrong. Ken clenches his teeth. He whispers, then shouts, voice shaking with fury and resolve. He says he's different, that he won't crawl, that he'll win properly, gracefully, and live without bowing his head to anyone. Instead of the monk's skull, Ken smashes the stone into the floor beside his head. The impact cracks the ground. The monk keeps snoring. Ken turns and runs into the night.
Pickaxe spots Ken and tells him Marin caught a rabbit, first meat they've had since arriving. They sit together and eat while Marin talks about setting more traps, hoping for rabbits, maybe even wild chicken. Ken just stares at the meat in his hand, barely touching it. Tae-soo hears him mutter and pauses, asks if he heard that right. Did Ken really say he almost killed the head monk? Everyone bursts out laughing.
Do-hyun admits he once thought about pushing one of the assistant trainers off a cliff. Marin shrugs and says he actually stole the head monk's knife one night and stood behind him, but couldn't go through with it. Tae-soo adds that he's been thinking of killing an assistant and making it look like an accident. Pickaxe grins and brags that he once made a stone knife to stab Ken in the stomach, but Ken woke up to pee at the wrong time. Pickaxe immediately gets smacked. Laughter breaks the tension. Someone shoves meat toward Ken, telling him to eat, and for the first time that night, Ken does.
Ken finally smiles, meat in hand. Then the group freezes. Behind him, a bear. Ken slowly turns. The bear roars. No one says a word. They bolt. They sprint through the forest, branches whipping their faces, lungs burning. With nowhere else to go, they leap off a cliff. The group crashes into the river below and barely survives. Up above, the bear misses the water and slams into the hard ground. Silence. Pickaxe peers over the edge and mutters, wondering out loud if bear meat tastes good.
All right, we'll leave it here for now. Mount Jiri isn't done with them yet. The training keeps getting harsher, the line between survival and insanity keeps getting thinner, and whatever Ken is becoming up there, it's only just starting to show. If you're enjoying the ride so far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stick around. The next chapter pushes them even further, and not everyone is going to walk away the same.